Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing? Hope you're doing well. I am going live early today. We have the Wounded Warriors Project benefit going on, and it's going to be noon Eastern time. And so we've got some things to get done and prepare prior to that. And so I wanted to make sure that I had ample time, one, to go pick up my daughter, and two, to make sure that we had all of that stuff together and in place prior to the start of that event. Hope everybody's doing very well. Eric, just trying to get some coffee. Today, obviously, you see the pennies up here. We're going to be talking about the news that occurred in relation to Secretary Bennett's comment about purchasing planchets and the statement that was made and what that actually means for the end of the cent. Now, one of the biggest issues here, and I have to make this kind of bottom line up front. Morning, Steve. How you doing? Is that we don't have all the information. So it's like, well, Frosty, how can you talk about it if we don't have all the information? It's because we do have good information. We do have enough information to make certain assessments based off of the data that we do have. There are some things that we don't have, and we'll be talking about the gaps in some of our data. We'll be talking about what we would like to have to be able to do this versus what we actually have. So we'll be talking a little bit about that. I've got a number of items that I'm going to be bringing up and sharing on screen. So again, this is going to be data driven. There's going to be a lot of very important information that is shared today, and it's going to help better inform you about what actually is the end of this cent. So I'm going to shut a door real fast, and then we will go ahead and get started. I'll be right back. All right. I forgot to shut the door, and everybody's waking up, and so I needed to get that taken care of. All right. Well, let's say hi to everybody. Ron Wills, good morning. Kevin Hawthorne, hope you're doing well. Acadian Carpenter, good morning, sir. Hope you're out there swinging a hammer, keeping it safe. Watch your thumbs. Steve looking for silver already said hi. Hope you're doing well. Eric, thank you for being here this morning. Much appreciate you. So let's break in and break down kind of what we know. Now, Eric and I talked about this a little bit ahead of time. There are two different stances. Hey, Azure, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Scotty Aquati, what's going on? I agree. Yeah. Do I watch my thumbnails or the? Well, watch all of it actually. You don't want to deal with any one of them. The cent. All right. So I'm going to share my screen, and I have to share just the entire screen. I've got a lot of information for you today. So I want to correct a couple misconceptions regarding some information that I have been asked about. I've seen in chats on Discord, YouTube, Instagram. I've seen a couple other people to say that they're getting rid of the cent altogether. That's not totally true. If you look at this is from the Treasury. This is actually a spreadsheet. You can go into the Treasury, look at the debts. You can download the data, look at all this stuff yourself. I frequently will look at these items and just look at the numbers and just go, what, it's crazy. 36 trillion. That number is hard to fathom, right? That's a whole lot of numbers after that 36. But if you look at this, when you look at the Treasury information, the one thing, Everyday Opportunity, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. Hey, Trips, how you doing? I'll get to that question in a minute. Let's talk about this first. All right, Trips. So let's look at the number here, 36 trillion. That's a big freaking number, and the Treasury accounts for everything to the cent, literally to the cent. And so if you look at this, are they going to get rid of the penny? Well, they'll get rid of the coin. Okay, that's what the proposal is. They're not getting rid of the cent, right? They're not getting rid of that 1/100th of a denomination. A lot of people say, well, they're going to round everything up to 5 cents. Not totally true. They're going to have to do it in some retail situations, but that's not totally true. So again, when we talk about this, let's dispel myth as we go along this, but really talk about what is actually happening. Welcome back. Hope you got some good coffee.
Oh, I did. Good morning, everybody.
All right. So again, we look at this, and I just wanted to share this. Again, everybody, if you want to get the information that I share with you today, I have all the tabs open. The Treasury Department, go look at it. You can pull the debt information. You can see all this stuff. It's all live. It's all there. Everything that I'm going to share with you today is public information. And if you want to know where it's at or how to research it, let me know. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull up a couple different things. So the first one is this, right? This is one of the first articles that came out regarding the cent, and it's like, what happens? Well, if you look at the information, the Treasury said that they had purchased or that they were purchasing, depending upon which one you read, the final planchets, and that they were going to stop putting new pennies in circulation in early 2026. All right, so let's actually take that for what it means. So in order to do that, we have to come back over here to the United States Mint and look at the denomination tables, right? And I'm going to zoom this in just a little bit so that you can see that a little bit better. Early 2026, what do they mean by early? Okay, that's, again, this is a piece of information we don't have. Every time we don't have a piece of information that's vital to the discussion, I'm going to state it. And so in that particular case, we don't have what they mean by early. It could be April, it could be May. Okay, we're still early into 2025. And so, because we're not halfway through the year yet. But when we look at this, they've already produced 1 billion cents. Okay, let's talk about this. 2026 is the semi-quincentennial. It's the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I went live the other day, talked about this. I did a short on this. Again, this is a major event for our nation. Okay? If you're in chat, do you know what the Declaration of Independence was? Do you know when it was signed? Right? These are things that all of us basically should know. And if you don't, let me know and I will inform you. But this is a big deal. And if you look at the 50th anniversary, the centennial, the sesquicentennial, the 150th anniversary, the bicentennial, when we look at all of these items, they were all significant major events. The nation takes pride in these events. Now, they don't always do it correctly. And over time, when we looked at the sesquicentennial and we looked at what happened with that particular coin, and 6 million people came to the World Fair to actually see this celebration. But out of the 6 million people that arrived, they only sold something like 36,000 commemorative half-dollar coins. Why was that? Well, they don't always do this right. And so is there a likelihood that they could screw this up before they get there? It's the U.S. Mint. Absolutely. Right? We've seen this before. I didn't mean to choke you up, Eric.
Yeah, well, it's not just the mint. It's, it's everything in general.
It happens, right? And so can they screw this up? Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, they can screw this up. But I'm going to tell you what the Mint can't do. The Mint can't just stop doing cents. There are laws and legislative processes in place that have to occur before they can do that. Period. End of story. The Treasury Secretary can't say we're stopping production of the cent. Now, what the Secretary of Treasury, Mr. Bennett, can do, Secretary Bennett, excuse me, he owns that title. That I owe him that respect, just Secretary Bennett. What he can do is he can say we've minted enough and we can pause the minting of coins. He cannot say we're stopping them. That requires legislative approval. And so when we look at this, we have a bunch of different acts that have been put into place. Now, I'm not even going to get into the Semi-Quincentennial Act yet, That is something that I have here. However, when you look at this and you look at kind of what's going on, there's a couple different things you have to look at. Number one, you have to make sure you understand what they're looking at. Okay, so the official title, to direct the Secretary of the Treasury to stop minting the penny, to require cash transaction to be rounded up or down to the 5 cents for intensive purposes. Okay, so what does that actually mean? Well, let's dig into this. It means that April 29th of this year, they introduced it and read it to the House Committee on Financial Services. POTUS, President Donald Trump, indicated in February his intent in passing on a plane on his way to the Super Bowl. There is a legislative process that has to happen, that has to occur. There is an entire process, and I just noticed Paul is sitting down here. I apologize, Paul. I didn't see you in the basement. Good morning, by the way.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So there is a legislative process that has to be fulfilled. Okay, so this is the common sense. But in order for the common sense to actually happen, and again, we talked about this before, they have to actually do a study. And they have to look at the feasibility of this. And so this is going to take time. So let's go a little bit over how this happens. Okay, so when you look at anything that happens, and Eric and I have talked about this regarding like the military and what happens, because his son's in the Navy, I was in the Navy. What happens when, you know, when something breaks down? Well, you have to put in the requisition chit, CHIT, not SHIT. You have to put in the requisition chit. And then it routes through the commander. It goes to the senior leadership. Senior leadership puts in the order. It goes to the contracting officer, who, if they don't already have a contract to manage that, has to put in a request for information. Then they have to do the outsourcing. They have to do, the community, check the community and do their fair market assessment and try to determine, who does what. Then they have to put in a request for action. Then they have to get the bids in from the prospective people, and then they have to do the review and the analysis. Then they choose an actor. And then they do a statement of work, and then they do all this other stuff. There's a big, massive process, and none of this happens quickly because there are legal processes across each one of these platforms that have to be looked at and met. Now, in a situation like this, what happens is that these folks, the Senate, don't have all the information on hand. They don't have it at the ready. So they have to reach out to whomever these are. Now, this might be the comptroller. This might be the people. They have to reach out to all these different agencies. Now, when you're talking about the Federal Reserve the Treasury, you're looking at the Mint. They need to look at Mint numbers. They need to look at that. They also need to reach out to a company like this, Artsen. Artsen is the company that actually makes the zinc planchets for the United States Mint. And they have to say, what is the capability? What do you have? How many do you have on source? What are our contracts? What is the balance? What do we owe? What do we possess? What can we do? What can't we do? What's within contract law? And once that stuff is identified and sent back to Congress, then Congress joins in a panel and they discuss and debate this process. Once they get in, they discuss, they debate this process, then they actually have to start the legislative routing through other Senate committees. And then once those Senate committees are done, then it goes to the vote. And we've seen, if you've looked at anything budget, okay, you looked at the continuing resolutions for budgets and what happens, and every time they want to shut down the damn government because they didn't have enough money for this, they have to go back and look at this, and then they have to go back and forth and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This happens in, March, and then all of a sudden we get the thing in April, and then September they tell us there's a potential furlough, and then there's all this stuff that has to happen, and we're talking about months and months and months. once an item is identified and understood. But those are fast tracked. These are major national fast tracked items. Now,
and all the stuff's got to be run through legal too. So to stop,
yeah. I mean, it's such a laborious process, and it is the epitome of fraud, waste, and abuse. Because it's one of those things where there are so many people that have to touch it. There are so many people who have to look at it and review it, that at every point, legal has to check, can we send this information? Is this jeopardize? And we talk about with the CCAC. Okay, does this jeopardize the sanctity or the protection of our national security? No, it's a question that has to be answered every time you run something through here. Does this potentially weaken our economy? Does this put us at potential risk? Right? There's all these questions that have to be answered and have to be asked prior to the adjudication of any of these activities. Okay? So we're talking about the major contractor here. Now, why do I have Artson up? Well, I brought Artson up because when I talked about the minting of the planchets and what happens through all this and the mints doing their things and the blanking, I talked about this company. But this company is the one that's been contracted for the zinc cent. You can see the various things in here, and we've got the technical blank of what happens with the cents and what happens and what you kind of have to do and what dyes you utilize to have the best product when you're deep drawing, when you're washing them. And there's technical specifications that walk through all of the processes that have to be done. This is all public record. And the reason that is public record is they have to notify some of these things. There are some things that are not going to be in here. For instance, one of the questions that I asked the other day when I did that quick live after the brief was announced, and that was, we don't know how many blanks were ordered. We don't know how many planchets were ordered.
Right.
We don't have that number.
What I was saying, how I read like over 20 of the different releases from different outlets, they were worded as they're preparing the final order to, they're striking the final cents right now.
And again, that's conjecture, right? We don't, that's one of those things that we do not know the answer to.
That's right.
But, okay, let's take a minute and, you know, there's some deduction that you can do that, and there's a difference between an educated assessment and an educated guess. Okay? What I'm making is an educated assessment regarding the legal process of this one right here. The Circulating Collectible Coin Redesign Act of 2020. Now, this is 2019-2020, 116th Congress, and this specifically talks about the redesign and what's going to happen and what's been approved. Now, this isn't the actual resolution. This isn't the semi-quincentennial one. There's 3 or 4 of these. Remember, when you're looking at these, there's going to be more than one congressional bill or law or act or resolution that has to be looked at when you're making an assessment based off of the legal structure of this process. That common sense law has resolutions that have to be looked at and met. One of those is the congressional resolution and the understanding of what's going to happen with the comptroller. That's separate, disparate of the common sense law. Okay, so we have to look at those items, or the common sense bill, not law. I apologize. So when we look at this, we talk about this, and then if you go to right here, I've already pulled this up and researched and read it. Look at line item number 22, Public Law 116, Act 330. The U.S. Mint presented coin redesigns for 2026 to the Commission of the Fine Arts and the Advisory Committee. That's the CCAC. We talked about that. Not confused with the grading company. Okay.
No.
The Mint would redesign the penny, nickel, dime, quarter, half dollar, and dollar coins for the semi-quincentennial, and 1 in 5 cent proposals from so on and so forth. And then they go on to talk about who all the people were engaged in this. And then if you want to do more research on the approval of that CFA, you want to look at what coins were determined. The short that I did that actually showed actually, if you look at the coin that's on the thumbnail, that is the CFA approved coin. Okay, that's the one that they determined is going to be there. That's the one that through this law, they have said is going to be printed in 2026.
Printed.
Why? Go ahead.
I knew it. Trigger.
Go ahead.
Printed.
Minted.
Struck.
Sorry. Okay. Well, no, it's again, she's a stickler for words, and that's perfect. Because if you're going to say it right.
Morning.
So yeah, I got you. Now, a lot of people say, well, hey, Frosty, that's not accurate because if you look at the bill, it says it's going to be the nickel or the quarter, the $50, the dollar, and then the metals. And it's like, well, no, those are, and gold. Don't forget about the gold one. It's like, but that's a different bill. Okay, so when we look at the encapsulation of the national parks, when we look at the House Judiciary Committee regarding the coinage that's going to be represented for the District of Columbia, when we looked at resolution, I think it's 111, that talks about the commemorative medals and what's going to be happening, what gold medals are going to be issued during that time frame. When we look at the 7 coins, 7 quarters that are going to be issued with one person on it, that's a separate resolution. That's a separate public law. So there's multiple laws when you're looking at this information that you actually have to dig into and look at separately. Okay, but the one that really applies to this is this one right here. Again, you see our Mint Director, Ventris Gibson, who was the one who did this, who signed off, sent that final notification, the approval that the items have been chosen, that the selection process has been made, and she sent off that research data to the CFA and said these are the coins that we're making the recommendation to be minted in 2026. That resolution was then approved, and the coins for 26 were approved, and we have our coins that are going to be minted. So we already have the public law. We already know the coins. We already know the designs. We already know what's going to be done. So with that, we can make an assessment. And that assessment is that the 2026 cent is going to be done. In order for this to be undone, another public law, this cannot be done through executive order. Executive order can't overstate a public law. What it can do is it can overturn a previous executive order. These are public laws, folks. The president doesn't have the.
Those are the laws for the approval of the designs.
Yes,
right?
but there are more for the actual, and there's tons of these, and all of these are in relation to these are the time capsule. These are all the various ones that are tied specifically to what's happening, the coins that are going to be done, and what's happening through one, and it talks about the history and why they're choosing the coin and everything else. So all of this is tied directly to this particular, and this is the full-on history. I apologize, I did a lot of this that talks about all the congressional involvement of this particular item. So you can look at the overarching reports and identification and everything that's happening. It includes all the public laws, the resolutions, everything. Now, why do I know this? Because this is a part of what I do. Now, not necessarily government-based, but it's a part of the research I do to understand kind of what's happening in other segments. So it's easy for me to go in and turn on notifications. And so if there's something that I want to track, I just turn on a notification, and then I get notification and updates when some sort of congressional movement has occurred. And you all can do the same thing. Come up here to sign in, create yourself an account, and then when you're ready, you can come over to the center and you can click on more options. You'll get notifications, and then you can choose what you want to do. You can get those notifications. It can be sent to your email. You can do it as soon as the action occurs. You can do all this stuff. Everybody has access to all of this. You can search various years. You can search multiple years. And what I did is I pulled the 119th Congress and all the congressional actions that were done for this particular topic. So everything that we need to have the discussion, everything that we need to make an assessment on what's happening in 2026 is right here. And if you want to know it, I've got the link right here, and I can put that in chat, or I can put it in the link below. You can do your own research and make your own determination. But what do we know? What do we have? Well, we know that the Mint has purchased a whole set of blanks or planchets. Okay. Now they say planchets because when we buy these, they're ready for striking. There are certain things that have to happen, but there are three things that we get outside of the U.S. Mint, and that is certain bullion pieces and cents. Right? They don't make those in-house.
All of our clad strip, all of our strips for coins.
But we do our blanking and the planchetting process ourselves.
Yeah, we do the blanking, but we don't do any of the metal stuff.
No, but what I'm saying is we call it a planchet from them because they do all of that. We don't.
Right.
We purchase those planchets, right? So we don't have to do the upsetting process in that. So that's why they're saying they purchased the planchets. If we just purchased the rounds and we did the upsetting, which we don't do for pennies, then we would say blanks. But that's why they call it the planchet. So just to clarify why they're calling that the planchet. So what do we know? Well, we know that they ordered or that they have ordered. There's still some clarification that needs to come out. But I've looked and I can't find any information on the order number. Again, that's probably, it's a contractual thing. It's probably locked down. We're probably not going to see that until after the payment has been made. There are some processes that have to happen in there. And then once all of that stuff's done, then it's put into public law. So we probably have a lot of time before we see any of that data. If we ever see that data, that could be proprietary regarding output capability of this contractor, and therefore it may not ever get shared. We may never know.
We don't know how many leftovers we still have either.
That's correct. So. That's another.
We don't know what the order is.
Yeah, that's another gap. So
10 billion. There could be a contract with this company that says, you have to buy this many or whatever. They probably committed to something when they signed a contract.
Yeah, and so I want to talk a little bit about this is one segment we just don't have any information on. We don't know how many blanks or planchets we already have. We have no clue.
Well, I did read something that said that they estimate that they will run out early in 2026. So, that's
but okay. So, and I talked about this at the very beginning. What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything really. And the reason that it doesn't mean anything is because what's early? We're in May.
Right.
Are we still early in 2025?
And they could start producing. They could be producing semi-quincentennial cents right now.
And that's exactly where I was going. So we don't have that information.
Too. Yeah.
Now, here's the one thing, and I couldn't find it. So I don't know if it's been done, but we were talking about like the bicentennial and the centennial when they did the 1776 and they did that stuff. They were minting that particular coin in 1975.
Well, we do have a way to tell. All we have to do is look at the production numbers for the U.S. Mint. If all of a sudden the production numbers on the cent in the next few months ceases and the number stays stagnant, the mintage numbers that they have are the production numbers. If they stay stagnant, then we know one of two things is happening. They're striking 2026 cents, or they're holding planchets back to strike 2026.
And that was my point. You don't know what those figures, when they say early 2026, what are those figures based on? 400
exactly.
million coins a month, or is it based on 100 million coins a month?
Yep, that's 100% correct. And so,
What we know for sure is that they are gonna cease production. For how
Well, we
long
don't know
or
that for
whether
sure. Not
no, we
until
do know
Congress
that for
passes it. It probably will pass, but
Congress does
ultimately,
not have to pass for them to cease production. That is up to the Secretary of the Treasury. He
So-
yeah, but
he
they still have
he
to
or
prepare
she
for pennies. If
he
they
or she
legal tender
dictates.
and the Fed Reserve orders pennies because they have none,
Yeah,
the
he
mint
or
is
she
obligated
dictates
by
how
law
many.
to provide them with pennies.
Right.
Paul,
If
say that again, Paula, sorry.
the Secretary of the Treasury dictates whether they're so it's an as needed thing. Like
That's
Eric
right.
was saying, it's an as needed thing. The Secretary of the dictate, Secretary of the Treasury. Good morning. I'm having my first cup of coffee.
I just had a buckwheat vinaigrette.
Will say, hey, we don't need any more. Now we know that they're planning on them not like them the penny being whatever eliminated. For how long, we don't know. So the Secretary of the Treasury has probably already said after these planchets are used up, then that's it for however long. We don't know. That takes, for it to completely be eliminated or permanently stopped, that will take an act of Congress. But for right now, the Secretary of the Treasury can say,
Well, that's what I
after
say. He
these
could do
planchets are
1,000
gone,
coins. He could make coins for mint
after
sets
these
or whatever,
planchets.
and that's penny production.
Well, and that's the thing. Okay, look, here's my take on all of this. I could care less whether they stop producing the cent because I hate the shield cent. I'm not a fan. Not a fan today, won't be a fan 10 years from now. So it makes no difference to me. The only thing that bothers me is that I like searching boxes.
Right.
And so if they do that, I think what will happen is we will not be, those will not be available to us anymore.
My next door neighbor, who's the bank teller, I asked her, I says, can you get me boxes? And she says, no, the bank's already had a memo last week.
Okay,
They're not selling any coins.
Okay, yeah. See that, and that's where we're going to be affected, I think. I don't think that it's going to make a difference in the value of the cent.
It
whether
shouldn't
they
in the
stop
short
it
term
or not.
anyway.
I agree with that assessment. I don't think
It
that.
shouldn't in the short term.
I think nefarious people are going to manipulate it. I think that there's going to be sellers out there that are going to say, get these pennies while you can get them. And I think everybody, if you collect pennies, collect them, do it, but don't be spending $135 for 5 rolls.
Every year they stop producing that year, so
Yeah.
it doesn't make that year any more valuable just because they're not printing them. Oh boy!
Back at you.
That
was
the biggest piece of this information in the news releases was they said they made 3.4 billion 2024 cents. That's not correct. They made 3.4 billion coins total.
Yeah.
They made 1.4 billion cents.
So so here's the thing, buy what you want, spend your money how you want. I'm just saying that every single year they stop producing that year.
That's right.
Just because they stopped even if they permanently stopped producing them, that doesn't mean that 2025 cents are going to be any more valuable 10 years from now, 20 years from now.
Agreed.
Well, here's a good example of that. In 2009, they made the 4 LP1 through 4.
Right, exactly.
You've got 300 million coins minted for each of them, except for 2009D.
The president's.
Yeah, 2009D LP4, they only made like 70 million of them.
Yeah.
And yet they're not the valuable ones. People don't want them because there's nothing to find in them.
Right.
Yeah. So, folks, the whole point of having this discussion is to help you guys understand that we don't have enough information to do this. But let's go back to this, okay?
Yeah, that's the thing.
When we're looking at the congressional movement on the determination of whether or not they are going to suspend the production of this? It's just been suggested. It's been referred to the House committee. And again, when you look at the House committee and you actually look at what's going on, it was introduced by the House, it's been referred to them, but they put it over to the Financial Services Committee. The Financial Services Committee put out an action that said, hey, we need to do some research on this, and they forwarded over to the comptroller. The comptroller now is in charge of doing an assessment. So every time there's an action, there has to be some associated resolution or bill or something that has to be generated, and then a committee has to get together. They have to assess, which means that they have to ask for information. They have to give them 30, 60, 90 days, however much information or time that they want to allot for this. And so just for the sake of ease, let's say it's 30 days. So that is, in this particular case, 2 months from the time that it was read in the House to the time that it was referred to the House committee. And 30 days from this point is the end of this month for them to get their data back, assuming there are no data gaps and lags. Oh, by the way, they don't do work when they're not in session. So if they're out of session, everything gets held. It's on pause. Now, they can still be having actions and information be given to them, but the Senate doesn't do stuff. The House doesn't do stuff when they're not in session. So if you see these gaps in the session, and you can look at the actual calendar to see when things are in session and when what's going on, it'll help you understand the general timeline of how long this potentially could take. This is not going to be done quickly. And again, Paul is right. The Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary Bennett, does have the authority to say, I'm going to halt production. He does not, however, have the authority to end the sentence. That is public law. And that has to go through this legislative process to do that. So he can say his intent is to stop production of the scent in 2026, but things can change. And if there is a massive, now, we've seen this before, and I talked about it before. I talked about it when we've gone look at my videos regarding the semi-quincentennial, right? It's
public outcry is a very powerful thing.
The Mint has screwed these things up a lot in the history, okay? They screwed up some of the bicentennial stuff. They screwed up the semi-quincentennial or the sesquicentennial, right? You look at the halves that were out there, they had 6 million people there, and they only sold 20 some odd thousand coins. So what's going to be the demand for these in 2026? Well, social media being what it is, we can see some of the stuff and some of the effects that the people who were saying buy them and buy them and buy them, and you're seeing 6 rolls. Okay, seeing 6 rolls sell for $200. It's nuts. Livecoin Q&A posted a little short that showed Amanda looking at these things and saying, "Don't do this, right? Don't stop." Because don't stop. There's going to be people that are going to utilize the situation to manipulate buyers into spending more money than they should on these. It's going to happen. We know it.
Yeah, they went up in price. They've doubled in price since that notice again.
What I want you all to pay attention to is to be smart, right? Miss Coin Crew said a little while ago, and I'm trying to look at chat, and folks, I'm just bouncing in back and forth. She's still getting Canadian cents that were stopped in 2012, right? They're going to be around for a long time. I said this the other day when I did the very quick live after the Treasury dropped their information. Folks, this is okay, great, but we don't know if they ordered 10 million, 10 billion, or 10 trillion blanks. We have no idea what the order was. We don't know what the production numbers are going to be. We don't know some of that stuff. We know that they've already produced 1 billion coins, and it's, data from April. We'll find out when June rolls around where we're at with the rest of the cents, but we don't have that information. But just don't be Don't be foolish. Don't go buying. If you want to buy a couple of them, and you want to spend $25 for $1 worth of pennies, whatever.
Yeah,
I
that's
would
one
never
thing.
do that.
Spending $25 for a roll of each is one thing. Buying boxes for $600, that's a whole nother issue.
It's foolish. It's
Yeah.
foolish. And because I'm going to tell you, they're going to get circulated in time. And people will be snapping them up, but after a while, it's just going to be like the Canadian cent. There are people still dropping cents off in rolls.
And them stopping production is totally different than them demonetizing them.
Exactly. So be careful. Don't react. Don't jump to these people who would manipulate you into buying and buying and buying and buying and buying. And if again, I said this the other day, and this is the purpose for the live stream that I did the other day. Very short notice. I want you all exactly, Roxzilla. That's exactly where I'm going. Fear of missing out. Y'all ain't going to miss out on shit. Okay? Period. End of story. There's no reason to react. Eric Byer just gifted 5 memberships. Thanks, brother. I appreciate you.
I have a question.
Fire away.
Okay. So let's just say, for, spits and giggles, that the cent goes away. Okay. Which it probably will eventually.
Eventually, for sure, I would say.
Yeah. Not in my lifetime, where I'm going to see them in circulation forever, because it's probably going to be like Canada. Canada, you can still spend cents or pennies or whatever they call them in Canada, cents. You can still spend them there. It depends. It's up to the merchant in Canada whether they take them or not. But you can still. They didn't demonetize them, nothing like that, and then it's going to be the same here.
And like I always preach.
But my question is, if they do stop the cent, which, like I said, I think they eventually will, the merchants will have to start rounding up or down. We know that. Hang on. The what? Okay, hang on a second. Anyway, it costs almost 14 cents to make a nickel.
Agree.
So
yeah, one of those bills actually has legislation to change the planchet material.
None of our coins have been demonetized. I don't think there's anything that's been demonetized. But if they stop it completely, okay? Here's the thing though. It costs almost 14 cents to make a nickel. So they have to increase production of the nickel if that happens, because the lowest denomination is always the highest minted. So they have to increase production of the nickel. So now they're saying, I read a thing, that it will save the taxpayers like $56 million a year or something like that. When they stop minting the cent.
But that's just the line item.
It will cost an additional $76 million when they have to increase the production of that's estimated, $76 million to increase the production of the nickel. So we are not saving any money.
Right. That goes back to what I was saying. They'll go through this and somebody will say, hey, but that had been brought up that they're going to change the composition of the nickel. Maybe they'll make it a nickel-plated zinc cent or nickel, and they can, if there is a contract with this company, maybe that will be enough to keep the contract with the company.
That's the thing, is they are talking about changing up the composition of the nickel to make it cheaper.
And that's nothing new. That's not new to this. The Mint does this all. The Treasury and them do this all the time. They're constantly looking for new materials. This isn't nothing new. I do also want to point out, when you look at Resolution 1270, that the nickel is included in that. Okay, so they are looking at the feasibility of the nickel. and other things as well. So it's not just the penny; it is the nickel as well. So be aware of that.
One of them has dollar bills, $2 bills. It has all sorts
Yeah.
of stuff in it.
Yeah. So there's a whole ton of these items. There's a whole bunch of this stuff that
Get rid
needs
of the
to be
dollar
looked
bill.
at, right? And
Well,
so
the dollar bill's a loser too because the average life is 21 days.
Mm-hmm. Get rid of the dollar bill.
You know, when you take the printing for $1 for a year, it costs more than $1.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so the whole purpose of talking about this today, and I know you guys are probably tired of hearing this stuff, but and I know
yeah, everybody.
Paul is like, oh my God, you're going to do this
How can you
again.
get tired of this?
Oh yeah. Look, at this point, I'm just gonna keep my eye on the numbers.
Yeah.
And because the way Congress and all that Washington D.C. stuff is, we don't know what from one day to the next what's going to happen. But
Agreed.
all I know is that I'm not going to cry if they stopped because I don't like the shield sense.
Yeah.
What will make me sad is if I can't search rolls anymore. That will make me sad. But I'm certainly not going to go out. If I want to spend a ton of money on a scent, it's going to be a key date.
It's going to be a good
or
one.
a beautiful high grade, whatever, anything.
So Copper Off Coins, I want to correct something that's stated there. It's not. Yeah. Well, it's everybody's calling them pennies, and the reason that they're calling them pennies.
Calls them pennies too.
It's because it's an affectionate. It's something that if you look on the boxes, right? I mean, look at here. Let's
look at the rolls.
Yeah, look at this. Okay. Oops, I have to be on the right screen. Okay, look at my screen. Right, 50 pennies.
Before we started making our own coinage, we used to use pennies.
Well, yeah, because they came from the pence, right?
That's why.
And the pence was and so we call them cents. The proper name is cents. But again, it's affectionately called the penny everywhere. And so
cent is 1% of $1. That's where the word cent came from.
And you had to pay your pence. That's actually it was penance, but anyway.
Yeah.
Yay! Shut my door.
So I wanted to walk through this with you a little bit, but there's one more thing that, and again, I'm going to put this in chat.
Yeah, Azer, I was, according to the press releases, 2024 cash was 16%. But it was almost 80% 15 years ago.
I don't know, man.
So I'm thinking that cash isn't king anymore.
No.
I'll just start searching nickels. That's what I'll do.
We're gonna be looking. Well, see, and there's a lot of people that don't like nickels. I think they make Chuck vomit in his mouth.
There's a lot of people, and the reason for that is they go from early die state to late die state like real fast because it's so hard.
Overnight.
They're very hard on the dies.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
So I wanted to give you guys resources, and again, I know when I went on the other day, I actually heard this from a number of people, and I was joking with Eric. I tend to, how do I say this? I tend to get frustrated really easy with stupidity. Okay, and I don't mean people being stupid with like asking dumb questions, because if they don't know the answer, then I can't say, and it drives me nuts for people to say common sense, because common sense is only common if everybody in the conversation has
it. It is a great title for the discussion, though.
Okay. It is though. But when you look at the bill, they call it common sense. And so why is that? Well, it's because they're everywhere. And if you look at what do we know, how many pennies, how many cents are out there? We have West Point, which doesn't store that stuff. They're usually bullion. Not saying it can't be there, but it's most likely not going to be there. So you have Philadelphia, you have Denver, and you have San Francisco. You also have the bullion repository at Fort Knox. You have the reserves, all of the reserve banks.
And if they're unstruck, they can probably just go into corporate storage.
Exactly. So we have no idea how many unstruck cent planchets are out there. We have no idea how many were ordered in this last run. We also don't know the details of the delivery of that
and the
order.
Contract.
Because it could be an initial purchase of 1 trillion blanks or planchets for delivery over 2 years or a year and a half.
Well, how many of them are they stocking to the side to keep for mint sets and proof sets too? How many of them?
Right.
I don't know, but
we don't know.
We can estimate there's been about 554 billion Lincoln cents minted.
Dad, when you get ready to dump that, holler at me.
So, and like I say, we don't know what the contractual agreement is with the company that makes the planchets. They could have a thing that we're making $2 billion a year, and they've only been striking 1.4 billion a year for 10 years. So there could be 6 billion of them in a warehouse right now.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't know the answer to that.
That's it. We don't know the contractual agreements that are with this company, and I'm sure that there is, and then that's going to be a hidden cost that we don't know about.
Oh, it's not. It's 100% that there are contractual. Everything that's done is done through contract. Even if there's certain contract vehicles and modalities and methodologies that have to be done in order for the United States government to do what they call acquisition of services or acquisition of products. So I guarantee you there's one out there, and we don't have the details. We're not privy to a lot of that information. It's not public dissemination. And the reason it'll never be publicly disseminated is because it gives, it's actually illegal. And the reason that it's illegal is because you cannot share information between contractors. And so I can't relay your production secrets to another company. And so they'll never make some of that stuff public. So it's important that we talk about what we do know. We do have enough information to tell you. I will say this, and you know what? I'll even go so far to say, if the 2026 cent isn't minted, I'll end my channel. That's how much I believe the 2026 cent is going to be minted. I don't believe.
Say they're almost done minting cents this year because they minted 1.4 billion last year.
Right.
They're going to be close to that already.
Yep. So I would stake my channel on it. And you want to record this and keep that? You want to snip it? Do it, please.
No needs it. No.
What? I was ignoring you. What did you say?
Exactly. But my point to all of this is make sure you have the information. Paula says something, and she said it to me in jest the other day, because we've talked about this a lot, and that is a lot of channels want to be first before they're right.
Yeah, instead of being right, they want
right.
to be first.
But what I want to do is I wanted to make sure that you guys had enough information, folks. I have spent a lot of time since this first news came out, looking at the legislation, doing research. I've created videos on the blanks and what happens and the metallurgical makeups and what happens on each one of these subsets and why it's happening, because I wanted to understand what all is included, what is the overall process. And they can't just turn it off. They just can't turn it off. Now they can temporarily stop production, but they can't just end the send.
Right. They can pause it.
They can cease production until legislation goes through.
I wonder if there's an actual timeline in the laws that say they have to make so many a year.
I
don't know. I'm just
No,
questioning.
they're
No,
not.
so
That's
the
completely
way
up to you.
the
That is it is supply and demand.
yeah,
It
the
is
way
all supply and demand.
That I do know, that if the
all
Fed Reserve goes to the Mint and says, I need pennies, the Mint will make pennies if they're still being made.
Yeah, it's all supply and demand.
if the Fed goes
Um,
to so let's say and it would be the Treasury, it wouldn't be the Federal
Yeah.
Reserve.
Right.
Different. If the Treasury said we need, you know, 1 billion cents, then the determination has been made by the Secretary of the Treasury within his or her authority that we do not have enough to meet the demands of the United States. So there is no number. The way that rule is written, it states that the Secretary of the Treasury has the capability to cease production if they believe that there is no detriment to the United States. So if they think that there's enough, if they believe that they have enough, he has credible information, he can cease production. But
Well,
he can't
and
end the cent.
I think that a big determining factor for them is the fact that so many cents end up
In
in
jars.
leave a penny, take a penny, in parking lots, in
Bags
jars
and
at people's
jugs
houses.
and boxes in Eric's house.
Yeah, they're just not used in commerce anymore. And so they know that there's not a need for them. There really is not a need for them. And I have no doubt that this is probably the end.
The beginning of the end, at least.
The beginning of the end, yeah. Of descent.
I personally think it's going to take longer than most people do.
I think that we don't. What I'm more curious about is if they're going to mint any next year for 2026. That's what I'm more curious about. Are they going to just make them for mint and proof sets? Are they going to make them for circulation? Is there going to be any next year? After that, I don't care. I don't care. I don't think it's saving us any money. I don't think that they're really thinking it through because the nickel costs so much more.
Well, honestly, did they ever think it through?
And
They were doing this to cut costs, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work out that way.
Well, so let's break this down a little bit more. There's more to it than that. How long does the nickel last in retrospect to the cent?
Oh, long.
Okay,
that's why
so
you find her.
long
There's
time.
when you talk about longevity, when you're talking about the potential for the upfront strike, there's more longevity with the nickel than there is the penny. So you
Well, the
have
copper
in
penny,
the long
absolutely.
term, it is a
Decades,
smarter
too.
move.
Yeah.
It is a smarter move
Especially the-
because you can have 24 cents that disintegrate in 6 months.
Oh yeah,
They're
absolutely.
outside, they do.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you have to think a little bit deeper when you're looking at why the nickel's a better choice. Now it is more expensive, but it's way more durable. I mean, how often, and I'll open this up to chat as well. How often have you done a nickel search? And I know that if Chuck is listening, he's just threw up in his mouth.
You find 30s and 40s nickels all the time.
Yeah, right. You find those all the time. You can find, good quality. You still find buffalo nickels on rare occasion, but you can still find AU looking coins from the 30s. Right now, sometimes they're dumped, but now when we're talking about that, the strikes may suck, but that's just because the strike for that coin sucks, especially if it's late die state. Now, you may not find full stairs or full steps in a nickel unless you're fortunate, because people look for those and they pull those off. And for those of you who don't know, we talk about this all the time. You cannot have full steps designation in a proof, FYI. Okay? So you can't have full bands designation in a proof, just so you know that. But you can find great looking nickels. And that's why I recommend for people who are just starting out, if you want to collect full sets, nickels are a great way to do it. because you can get a key date 1950D in MS62, MS63 for 75, 80, 90 bucks. You get a MS66 with 5 full steps for 125. So you can get really good quality key date coins in nickels for cheap in retrospect to some others. So a lot of people will, I believe a lot of people will shift. Now again, Chad, if you determine you're going to get rid of your set, again, like I said, reach out to me because I collect nickels. There's a reason I collect nickels, and that's because I started with the 3 cent. I love that particular coin. So I just carried over and I just ended up collecting nickels. But there's a longevity factor that is there. And so, yeah, well, we've been talking about that. So
ending it completely does.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Stopping production does not.
It does not. That's the Secretary's choice.
Yes.
And they have to have data to back it up. They can't just say, well, I don't want to do it. They have to have data to back it up. That is a requirement.
The cent will be around for a long time. And I've had this argument before with people too, who say, when they say, well, I'm buying the 2025s for my grandchildren. Someday they're going to be worth a lot of money. Well, no, they're not. And
Agreed.
here's my reasoning. And they say, well, yes, because more people will start collecting them. Well, that's not true either.
Yeah, look at the 24 or the 76 quarters.
Yeah.
Well, not just that. Look
There's
at the
B-rolls
2 cent
everywhere.
coins.
Yeah.
Look at the 3 cent nickels. Look at just because. So as the generations come up, they're still going. The younger people are still going to collect what they like.
Yep.
If they decide to collect cents, then they will collect cents, whether they're producing them in circulation or not. If people will still collect what they like. Just because they're not making them anymore does not mean going to make them more collectible.
If you're in a channel and they tell you that,
am I getting my point across at all? Like, does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
No, well, fully. If you're in a channel and they tell you that these are going to be a high collectible item, you had better consider what information you're accepting from that channel. If you're hearing people say, oh my God, this 2025 penny is going to go through the roof, you really need to buy these. Especially if they're selling them, you really need to stop and say, do you have my best interest in heart? If you have this wrong, and there's a billion of them already out there, they're not rare. Okay. It'd be different if there was a run of, 200,000 or, 5 million. It'd be a different story. There's a billion pennies in 2025 already. And we haven't even seen, we haven't even seen May's data yet.
60 million.
Yeah. Okay.
1,060 million. Yep.
And the average production over the last few years has been 1.4 billion. So they're almost average already.
Yeah. So it's nothing new. Okay. There's not, the whole purpose for this is to protect the community and ensure that you guys have the information to protect your pocketbooks. Okay. That is, if you guys know anything about the people that are on channel right now, and many of the people in the stream, we're about preservation of your wealth. We don't want you buying counterfeit coins. Jack Young just came in. Hi, Jack. Good to see you, brother. We don't want you being fooled with fake silver or gold, fake bullion. We got a ton of stackers in here who work and do a lot of great work in that endeavor.
Yeah,
we also
likes the consents as much as me.
I
wish they'd make them forever, but hey.
Yeah. But the point is the information that we're sharing with you. Number one, every piece of information, if you want it, I'm going to be throwing it in the chat. Every URL that I use, all the, I've already thrown it in chat. I can put it in the
I love
description
it
of the
too.
video. If you want any of this information, just tell me what you want, and I'll make sure that it's copied in there.
It looks
Because
like they've doubled in price, Mark, since you bought yours.
yeah, it's
was crazy. I just
unreal
Yeah.
what some of these are going for. Eric
and
and I
they're
were,
going to go back up again.
They already did.
They're
The
gonna
cheapest
go
one
back
I
up.
found was $10 plus shipping.
Yeah, well, that actually is down from what they were for a while. But now that all of this new news, because it's coming back around, this is not
Yeah.
new. This is nothing new that we're talking about. We talked about it on here, a couple months ago or whatever. So this
Exactly.
isn't a new.
Well, that was when
But-
the announcement, when Trump was flying to the Super Bowl or something, he made the announcement. They were shot up to $50 overnight.
Well,
The
you could have bought them
willy-nilly
on,
decision.
on that.
Yeah.
That home shopping or whatever for $90 for 3 rolls. That was disgusting.
Yeah. But again, just folks, the whole purpose behind this is protect yourself. Okay. These aren't
I think
rare.
that's a great idea.
Don't let people
This is
lie to you. What is it?
Yeah. Rolls of NIFC cents from the mint, like they sell $50. I think that's a great idea. But it won't ever go because
But
I don't
how
think
is
that,
that a great idea? Because
for the collectors,
you
I think
still
they
have to
should
make
leave them in
the
the pre-print.
dies. Yeah,
If
you
you
have
look
to
at
make
English
the
stuff,
dies. You have to, all of the work that goes into doing that.
right,
Agreed.
but English, like the English sets, they still have half pennies and pennies in them. They're demonetized. You can't use them anymore.
I
But they're
think
still in
we
their
should-
collector
I think
sets.
we should-
Canada, on the other hand, took the cent out of their collector sets.
I do think that they should. I will be sad to not see them in proof and mint sets if that is the case, but I don't think they should make rolls of them because once again, what they still have to order the planchets. They still have to strike them. They
Well,
will
if they
be
did
just
that,
regular uncirculated.
They
They'll be
could
just
make them
regular-
out of copper again and just charge you the money for them.
I don't think they'll go back to doing that.
No, they won't.
There's
They
too
never
much
go back.
involved.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Right.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't make sense.
Because I love Lincoln cents.
Yeah.
I hope they're always around.
So Invisible, the problem with half dollars is there's no
also
legislation to get rid of the $half.
Half
Sorry,
dollars
Paula, go
are
ahead.
also still used in circulation.
Yeah.
They are spent.
Yeah. And so, well, not a lot of people even know. I've had people ask me what the hell they were. I always take them.
The
I always
last
keep
few
a few
years
in my
aren't
pocket.
even considered NIFC
And when I go to the
anymore,
grocery store, I
Federal
always
Reserve-
give them to people.
I wonder why
the
that
Federal
doesn't
Reserve
come with the eye.
themselves put them into circulation. So
No.
what?
The word NIFC, why wasn't it just NFC?
Well, if they're not even the last few years, they haven't even been NIFCs anyway. Because
Yeah,
they
they're not
put
again
them
this
into
year. They're
circulation.
already into putting
Yeah.
them out into circulation.
So it's NIFC because it's not intended for circulation.
Right.
Proofs
But
are
like,
NIFC.
what's the difference between that and not for circulation?
Yeah, that's
I
true,
guess
Paul.
not for circulation would mean it wouldn't be legal tender, I guess.
Max, I have a 59 that I got out of a payroll, silverling condition. I also got one it's actually steel. It's not silver. Good. 59 was the first year of the memorial cent.
Yeah, you're not wrong, Azer. Yeah, there's a lot of bigger fish to fry than that, but
Yeah.
hey, they got to do what they got to do. It's their job.
Good morning, Mike.
Nickel's a bigger fish.
He must be on the vertical side.
He
Yeah,
must be,
Acadia,
yeah.
the 3-cent pieces are some of my favorite pieces, and they're not the reason I got in. I got in because of my birth year. My grandfather gave me my first 1873 coin. That was kind of the kicker for that one. But I fell in love with the obsolete coinage because I found it really interesting to see half cents and 3 cents and 3-cent dimes and 20-cent pieces and 2-cent pieces, and all those obsolete coinages they're fascinating to me.
Yes.
So absolutely cool stuff. Are there any questions regarding this?
Oh, this must be
Mike, Paul
Mike.
just sent you a link.
Yeah, he did. Mike also just got interviewed. Didn't you just get interviewed by your local news company?
Yep, they just said that. I was interviewed NBC5 last night on this very discussion.
Yes. Do you want me? I don't know if we can we show this?
I
will send this to you.
Probably not. Mike, are you available to come up?
Well, it's just an interview on the news channel. You should be able to show this.
I
sent it to you.
Did you email it to me?
Nope, I sent it on Messenger.
Okay.
Facebook Messenger. Yeah, you can play it. I know that guy. Can't mistake that mug. He's famous. I'm surprised you're still talking to us peasants,
right?
Mike. I love that guy. Oh my goodness.
That goes to you can take the boy out of the hood, but can you take the hood out of the boy?
Right.
Oops,
Happy Memorial Day weekend, everybody, by the way.
Yes. Are you broadcasting tomorrow, Frosty?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to a parade.
Okay, here we go. Hopefully, actually, let me see something.
The disaster.
I need to...
Going to the parade today. All of my grandchildren are in the parade today.
I don't know. Hopefully this allows me to play the audio. You're going to have to tell me if you can hear the audio. Not you two, in chat. Actually, hold on. I need to move this over here.
The U.S. Mint seems to be moving forward with plans to stop making pennies.
It's low, but
NBC5 photojournalist Dante Williams checked in with a local coin shop called Harlan J. Burke.
Can you turn it up?
And found out what this means for collectors.
For the cent to actually end its run, it has to be done through law in Congress. They have to literally pass an act that does away with the denomination. What they announced is that they bought the last shipment of blanks. We don't know how big the shipment is. We don't know how many more they're going to make. The banks order them and they make them. And that's pretty much what the formula has been.
The U.S. Mint generally produces at least 1 billion cents a year for the last 10 to 15 years, maybe even 20. The problem is now that 1 cent just has no buying power. You can't produce anything for less than a cent.
There's just too many of them. They're never going to be rare.
But I think from the collecting standpoint, it will make people a lot more interested in their change. Essentially, I think you're going to see small change fall away. I wouldn't doubt, to be really honest, in the next 20 to 30 years, there's almost no cash transactions. We've seen it fall so hard.
We found out during the pandemic that if you don't have to process it, if you don't have to count it, if you don't have to pay for all the security of it, credit cards offer you a much more seamless transaction. So to the merchant, it's a much more attractive option. And I think that's what's going to be the end of it. It's not going to be, something that's ceremonial, or it's just going to kind of slowly cough its last breath.
Really interesting story about what we're all going to have to do and the adjustment we're going to make.
No more 99-cent stuff, probably.
There hasn't really been any lately.
No, there's everything 1999, 12.
That's yes, things that don't end in a
99.
Yes, we're going to have to get used to that.
He's famous.
That's right.
In my book,
That was Russ on there too. Isn't he a cutie patootie?
No, I mean, good job, bud.
Yeah.
He's a cutie patootie.
Yeah, and again, this goes to show that all of us here are on the same exact page, right? So it's important. It's about protection. It's about education, the proper information, coins making sense, information of numismatic information for the numismatic nation, right? And it's about sharing good quality information with everybody to ensure that we have you in our interests, right? To make sure that the hobby is protected. And ultimately, this is why we're doing this and what this is about. And thanks for sharing that, Mike. That's really cool. But it goes to show that, again, there's a community of people that are here to really protect you. And where you get your information, where you source your information matters. Make sure that the people you source your information from have you in mind. And I'll tell you right now, there are some people who sell stuff that are 100% trustworthy. There are some people who sell stuff that I wouldn't trust them to move my car out of my garage. But it has nothing to do with the buying and the selling. It has to do with what their motivation and what their interest is. And so really, I want you guys to take a moment and think about if you go to a channel and they're telling you that you need to collect these because they're going to be rare. If you're listening to people in a coin talk, whether they're dealers or collectors, and you hear them saying that you need to save these, be careful.
They are already not rare. So if they are not rare
exactly.
today, they are not going to be rare tomorrow, and they're not going to be rare 10 years from now or 20 years from now. They are already not rare.
And we show you this when you look at the circulated coinage. Again, you can come over here to 2025 when you look at this, and I'll put this in chat for everybody. Everybody has the capability to do this. Everybody. In production numbers, okay? There, it's in chat. Everybody has the capability to go to these sites and look up this information for yourself. Do a little bit of research. Do a little bit of validation and verification. But there, and I do want to correct something that was said at the very end by the newscaster. There goes the end of the 99 cents. That's not true. That is not true. And the reason that it's not true is because, psychological, right? That Robert Bruce, that's exactly right. 99 cents sounds better than $1. Absolutely. Right? And this is exactly, well, there's tax, but there's also going to be local assessments at your regional, depending upon what state you're in or what area you're in. It's going to be regional. It's going to be done by the person that you're done, the vendor or the grocery store or whatever. They're going to be able to make the determination of how they do this. They round it up or they round it down to the nearest nickel. That's fine. If they do it at 99 cents and they charge you 6% or 6% sales tax and it costs you 106, well, now it's 110. They gained additional 4 cents. Whereas if they charge $1, there's no additional income. So because, well, I take that back. You do 6 cents on $1, it's going to be 6 cents. You'll still get the 4 cents. So it's going to be the same. But there's still going to be that there. And I'm going to give you another reason that the 99 cents, the 97 cents, the 90 cents will never go away. It is a retail known that 97, 99, 90, numbers ending in 7 mean something specific to the retail outlet. Numbers ending in 9 mean something specific to the retail outlet. This is decades-long retail. 9 is that it's been raised and it's back down, it's marked on price, but there's really no normal change. 97 is actually a rollback price if you're at Walmart, but if you're at another place, the 97 means that it's been cut back, right? This is a Walmart retail-based thing, but it goes multiple different places. When they're doing, you ever go to Costco or something like that and you see something 1990, the 0 means that they're not going to be putting it back in stock. All of these numbers are done for retail. They're not going to get rid of those numbers. They mean something. They're not going to change the entire retail market to understand the substructure of something because they're getting rid of a coin. So don't be lulled into believing for a moment this is going to change how work is done. Yeah, 97 at Costco. Perfect. It's not. Yeah, exactly. So don't get sucked into what is hyperbole, what is rhetoric by the media, because they want to sound smarter than they are. These people have no more sense and knowledge about this stuff than you do. None.
No.
They are just in the public eye. Period. End of story. This is why it's very important that you know your sources of information. And I'll tell you, Paula and I go back and forth with, hey, this wasn't done right. Well, I don't agree with that. Well, it is. This is where I got it. Okay, well, you're right. Oh, you're wrong, right? And then we correct, we discuss, we go back and forth. Paula goes to Jack Young. Paula goes to Riley. Paula goes to, well, she tries to avoid, I just went blank. They'll talk to him for Ken because, you get on the telephone, you'll be on it for the rest of the day.
I love Ken.
I know. I'm just kidding. Ken doesn't listen to my program, or hopefully he would laugh.
Who knows? You never know what he's listening to.
But what's important is that each of us has people in our lives that we go to validate and verify the information. We may say something wrong. And that's going to happen. People make mistakes and they screw up, and it happens. But you'll see less mistakes with certain areas and certain channels than you will with others. If you're in a channel and they can't tell the difference between a circulating and a proof coin, consider where you're getting your information. If they're arguing over a proof and a circulating coin and they don't know what it is, be careful. If they're talking about the rarity of a coin that has 2 billion mintage, be careful where you're getting your information.
Don't be afraid to challenge someone.
And don't be afraid, and I have somebody who has chastised me because I've looked out for somebody. Morning, Jack. Morning, freaking. I have challenged somebody in private. They made it public. And I basically have been relieved of my position there.
And here's another thing. Don't be afraid to be wrong, because that's when you learn your best lessons.
That's right.
As long as you take the right answer and run with it, you're good.
You usually don't repeat those. That's right. You usually learn from it and don't make the same mistake twice. So it is the best way of being wrong.
Every once in a while, I will still say numismaticist.
Numismaticist.
Okay, and it sounds like a medical disease, right? Because
printing coins.
Numismatics, but numismatics can become it's like aluminium or aluminum. There's some people who just can't say it, right? My wife can't say vacuum.
Well, aluminium, depending on where you're from in the world, it's correct or not correct.
She says vacuum.
Vacuum.
Well, it says.
Well, she's Norway, and all his W's are V's and all his V's are W's.
Yeah, there are language things and there are things like that happen. But again, the architectomy, there's my mind went somewhere and I had to stop. I'm glad my filter was working. Like seriously glad my filter was working. We're all on a learning curve, right? And this is why this channel is educational. I don't sell stuff. I don't do that stuff. But just because I don't sell stuff doesn't mean that people that do are bad. Because we have a lot of good, solid people. Copper coins. Oh my God. The knowledge between Chuck and Eric. I mean,
Yeah,
right?
they're kind of smart.
They got some
They're a little
some
bit
skills
smart.
behind them. They sell some stuff. Look at ghosts and ghouls, goblins and ghouls, and Mr.
Coins
Ghost
and
Hunter.
gold.
No, I know, but I'm joking with him. Right? Blue Ridge Silverhound. There are people, right, who have really good knowledge. Silver Seek, right? There's a lot of really good people who sell stuff, and they will tell you, hey, you might not want to buy this from me if you're looking for a deal, right? But you look at the information that they give you, and if their information is sound, if their information is verifiable, if their information is validatable, then it's important for you to say, I want to verify. There's a comment, and you've heard me say this a lot over the last little bit.
Right? You know who else is selling? Matt from Lost Dutchman is selling now and whatnot.
Oh, nice.
I actually bought a couple things.
Who is?
Yeah, so he's a good one too. Matt.
Oh, Matt
From
is.
the
Okay.
Coin Show podcast. Matt Dinger.
Dinger. I
Lost Dutchman.
don't get on Whatnot, so I didn't know he did stuff there. But yeah, so there's a lot of good people that you can trust, right? There's a lot of good people who sell. There's a lot of good people. There's a lot of good dealers out there who actually really understand gold and silver and value and the ratios, and will give you good, insightful information. There's a lot of good people who are numismatic, but I'm going to tell you right now, just because they're a dealer doesn't mean they know jack crap about coins. Just because they're a numismatic dealer doesn't mean they know jack crap about coins. Okay? Just because you have a YouTube channel doesn't mean you know jack crap about coins. So make sure you understand the information that's given to you. And trust but verify. It's extremely important. Make sure that you have solid resources, but do your research and look it up. Right? That's a fact, Jack. What did Jack say? I'm just kidding. I know what you're
I
saying.
don't know.
So again, I'm not going to talk any more about this. We may do something in June when the numbers come up and just show you that, hey, they stopped or they did another 250 million cents. We'll see.
And that is what I am going by. I am just going to go by the numbers that my eyes see for myself.
Exactly.
And if in 2026 it comes up that they aren't making any, then I'll know for sure.
Exactly.
So until then, whatever.
So
like I said.
Please go ahead, Paula.
Like I said, the 2025 cents are already not rare, so they're not going to be rare tomorrow. They're not going to be rare 10 years from now or 20 years from now. So don't buy them for a ton of money thinking that someday they're going to be rare, because they're not.
I agree.
Yock, that is an extremely good point. And there are people who will spend a little bit more in a channel because, one, they want to support the channel. And if that's what you want to do, that's totally fine. But I'll tell you, if that is a selling point for the channel, I would be careful. Okay, because it's really easy for them to justify a certain act and utilize that as justification. So you got to be careful doing that. If you want to do it as a buyer, then do it as a buyer. But be careful being lured into people saying that, yeah, exactly. That's what I said, Mike. Yep. They're making 26 cents, period, end of story. But if somebody utilizes that argument against you, be careful. Okay.
They may be already making them.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Paula. They may already be minting them.
Yeah, they did that. They did that for the bicentennial. So
I was only going to go to 9. It's 9:30, but I am going to do something Today at noon Eastern, the Wounded Warrior benefit kicks off. And this is a big deal. There are a ton of items. They have over 500 lots.
I know. Can you believe that?
It's insane.
That's amazing.
They've done some initial fundraisers, and to this point, in the 3 years that they've been doing this, they've raised $323,000 and change, and we haven't even touched the auction yet. Now, what's cool about this is some of the early fundraiser pieces that they've done were matched not only by the Blue Angels, but by one of the members, AG47 Recon. His company matched.
There will not be a privy on them next year, Yoxnav. There's no privy on them next year.
No, it's just going to be the 76 to 2026.
Dual date.
Yeah, the dual date. Which sucks because there were so many other good designs.
Such so many possibilities. Yeah. So many possibilities. But, yeah, whose channel is it? Is it on Pedro's channel?
I'm putting the link in right now.
Perfect.
It's on MLZB.
Mm-hmm. Oh, MLZB. Okay, that's right.
And there's the live stream. Yeah. Now, there's going to be a lot of really cool items on here. But remember, this is a benefit. Okay, this is something
That's right, Mike.
to. And I'm going to talk about that right now. And I'm also going to be talking about it. Volfer Pedro has asked me to come up and discuss a little bit about this as well. Tiger and I did a Memorial Day live stream. I'm going to ask you if we did this for Stack Elector. If you haven't seen that, please go over to Tiger Stacker's channel and look up the Stack Elector that we did regarding Memorial Day. Why is it Memorial Day? But I want to remind everybody a very solemn fact. This isn't Veterans Day. This isn't reminding, oh, hey, Uncle, thanks for your service. No, you can do that. You can do that every day of the week. That's for Veterans Day. Memorial Day is to honor those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. And Memorial Day changed September 11th, 2001. And no longer was just about the vets. It was no longer about the military. It was about people who have put their lives on the line in defense of our sanctity. And while this is primarily a U.S. holiday, and I'm going to say primarily because there are lots of people who served in the Canadian Air Force, the Royal Air Force, there are people who served in other militaries. Mm-hmm. If you have military members, family, uncles, brothers, sisters, aunts, if you have friends, I've got about 8 or 9 people, and I know, Paula, you've probably lost people that you served with when you were in. Mm-hmm. Exactly, Yoxnav. It's a somber reminder of what this weekend is about. Now, I'm not telling you not to have a barbecue, and we're going to be barbecuing. I'm going to be turning down some old fashions this weekend, and we're going to be doing some live streaming, and I'm going to be doing some yard work, and I mean, there's a lot that's going to be happening this weekend. It's a normal weekend, but Memorial Day is something specific. And I'm going to challenge each and every one of you to something that most of you have probably never even thought about. And that is, if you live near a military base where there is a national cemetery, we have one here at Fort Sam Houston. Even if you can't get on base, go walk by and look. And remember, you're going to see tons and tons and tons of white gravestones. And these are people that put their life on the line for our freedom, for the sanctity of our nation.
You may see some change on top of those tombstones also. Don't touch that change.
Yep.
It's not lost change.
And you might see a shot glass or a beer, right? Don't take those.
No.
They're there in remembrance. So remember what the day is about. And I want to challenge each and every one of you. You want to do something really cool for Memorial Day? Go to a grave site and find a vet that's been buried and clean up around their headstone very carefully, very cautiously. Touch it up. Pull the grass away from the headstone, sweep it off, and do something nice. When we did Tiger Stacker, Memorial Day for me was
a
always
penny. Leave a penny on it.
Leave a penny.
Leave a penny on
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a good thing, Kevin. If it's on the ground or looks out of place, if you're in a cemetery graveyard, leave it alone. Somebody has placed it there, right? Things just don't navigate. If you ever get a chance, I would do the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Go check that out. We played taps to remind everybody at the end of Stack Elector.
But every day is a good day to think of it. So
it is, but remember that
every day is a good day.
There's an opportunity for you to make it personal. Do something different.
Yeah.
And again, I've lost friends. I had friends that I served with, and I had friends when I worked for the Air Force that I worked with them, and they went on deployment and never came home.
Mm-hmm.
I was at the airport when 2 people that I worked with were brought home and stood there with their wife and their kids as they saw the casket come off the plane. This is real. For many of us, it hits home. So if you see somebody and they're standing at a grave and they're crying and they're bawling, don't go interrupt them and say, hey, I hope you're doing well. They walk away. You can talk to them and stuff. But don't disturb what people have left behind. Don't take the flowers. Don't take the coins. Don't take the shot glass that's left behind. Those are people who have taken time to go honor their comrades. So show some serious respect for that. And again, I don't care if you're with the Royal Air Corps, if you're with the Royal Air Force, you're with the New Zealand Navy. I don't care what service you're with. If you've lost people, or you lost people who are first responders, firefighters, police, healthcare professionals who died in fighting epidemics overseas, whatever it might be, remember what the day is for.
Don't forget the families too.
Yeah. And Mike, you said something about PTSD when we talk about our veterans.
Yeah.
For those of you who are caretakers for veterans, I want to say thank you. It's a very difficult job. It's a thankless job. The night sweats, the terrors, the drug and alcohol abuse, the physical abuse, the terrors, the sweats, the inability to readapt. There's a lot of serious issues that occur when you serve in war. And you'll be amazed at how little effort it takes to reach out to somebody and say, how you doing? Checking in on you. Want to make sure you're doing all right. Hey,
I'm going to get going.
You're fine.
I got to go.
Gotcha.
Sorry. Have a great day, you guys.
See you, Paula.
Bye.
See you later, Paula. It doesn't take very much to just call somebody and say, Hope you're well. Hey, thinking about you. How you doing? Okay. I'd like to plug the Valhalla project. You're a mod. Fire away. Go ahead. There's a number of service organizations and agencies. And again, we're going to be supporting Wounded Warrior this weekend. 3 days of some amazing items. If one of my mods,
channel, you should put a link in the
chat. Link's already been put in there. I'll do it again. There's the oh, I didn't spell that correctly. Sorry. That's to the day one auction benefit. Hey, Jack, thanks. Take care. Have a good one. Happy Memorial Day, brother. If you're around tomorrow, we'll be there. But go check that out. If you want to, let me pull this up. If you want to know, check this out. So this is the spreadsheet. I'm going to go through and I'm going to read just a couple of these items really, really quickly. Half-gram IGR gold, 1 ounce Navy rounds, American Legacy Collection Morgan Dollar, 2021 St. George and the Dragon, 1884 Carson City Morgan GSA, 1883 Carson City Morgan GSA, True Patriot round, 1 Eccles Loaf Bar, 75th Iwo Jima 1 ounce, 1 ounce Geiger Square, Kookaburras Equilibrium, 1921 Morgan, 2000 ASE 1 ounce Medal of Honor coin, 2 ounce Moon Landing 50th Anniversary bar. There's some 1922 S peace dollar, 1924 peace dollar. There's 3 Rolo sets from Reckless Metals, 5 ounce copper bars. Lots of great information, lots of great items here. And again, there are Bifrost has done. Actually, let me show this. We're going to be doing this. This is something that Bifrost did. This is custom drawing. Let me move this out of the way. This is something that's going to be done. Bifrost did this for Memorial Day. So that's going to be one of the pieces that's going to be auctioned off. This is the helmet and the boots. A very familiar memorial piece. That was done for this particular one. So this is one of the items that's going to go away or be available. That's going to be done on Monday. So if you're interested in that, that's going to be there. There's also going to be, and again, I will throw that there. This is one of my favorite quotes. The greatest, let me move this out of there. The greatest casualty is being forgotten. And that's true, right? So you see the 9/11 memorial, you hear, never forget. But it's really easy to be, out of sight, out of mind. But there are 510 lots. There are some mystery items that are going to be there from Reckless Metals. And if you guys know Reckless Metals, there is, they're very generous, and who knows what that's going to be. There's lots of gold, lots of silver, lots of numismatic. So go check it out. That link is there. Go check out that spreadsheet. And none of the money comes to any of the people. It gets paid directly to Wounded Warriors. All the rules are going to be done each day. You're going to have moderators. They're going to call it in. It's going to be 100-second clocks, 90-second clocks, 2-minute clocks, depending upon the value of the item that's going to be on there. 3 days, 8 hours, 24 hours total stream time for this particular benefit. And So go check it out. Be there. I know that Vote for Patro, MLZB, Cash Money, Jenny, Sweetheart, Sassy Susan, $1 Million Meg, Grimlet Ashley, Steve Looking for Silver, Shroom Day, Oregon Stacker, Sassy Susan, Nash Landings, good grief, who am I forgetting? See Happy Chappy. There's so many people that have worked to pull this together. I'm sure that I'm missing a bunch of people, and if I missed somebody, please don't beat the carrier. But there's so many people that have worked really hard to get a ton of lots together. So go over, check it out, see what's out there. I really believe one of my favorite pieces of Angry Warrior, who did some amazing pours, is going to be up. There's just some cool stuff. So go check that out and make sure that, again, you remember that. Now, Mike, if you will do me one more favor. Man, you read my mind. You pulled up the Valhalla project. So I'm going to open that up really fast. And I'm going to share my screen. And sure, no hero is forgotten. They have a bunch of different products that can be purchased. They support a lot of people. There's different things that you can do. Lots of stuff to help with suicide prevention, post-traumatic stress disorder. Absolutely phenomenal program. So go check them out. They're online. They have all of these. That was painful. What was painful? Listening to me say this? I'm not sure what you mean. So, but yeah, go check that out. Go see what this is. And, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, but there's a lot of good service organizations that are out there. So go check that out, see what's going on. And I appreciate you putting that up there, folks. All right, Eric, you have anything you want to say before we wrap this up?
I don't. Let's leave it at that. That was a good way to leave it.
All right, sounds good. All right, folks, I will be streaming. Tomorrow will be a little bit lighter day because I'm going to be helping with the benefit tomorrow and Monday. Please come over and check it out. Master Sergeant Dan Miller is going to give an overview, talk a little bit about this. The rules and the information will be done. Again, that's going to be in about 2 hours, or yeah, about an hour, noon Central or noon Eastern, excuse me. So go check that out, and 71 minutes from now, it'll be live. So go grab some breakfast. Go, walk your dog, say hi to your wife, kids, husband, whatever it is, significant other, and then come join us for an amazing 2025 Wounded Warrior benefit. All right, folks. Love you guys. Be well, be blessed, and I will see you in the streams. Take care.